right, welcome back into the show, and I'm super excited today to talk about some NFL football, man. Like this was a great day of football going on right now. I'm recording this Sunday night, and just got done with the 4 o'clock games. I'm super pumped to talk about today. It was a sweet day. So let's start with, of course, the Detroit Lions. We got to start with them. They had a tough loss today. They played the Seattle Seahawks and lost in overtime 37-31. Looking at this game, I mean, again, I was in East Lansing this weekend, so we were playing golf while the game was going on, so I did my best to catch up and do my due diligence talking about the Lions. But looking at this game, man, like Geno Smith was great in this game. He ended up 32 for 41 from the field, 328 yards passing, and 2 touchdowns. He was fantastic. He really stepped up from his game last week against the Rams. He struggled in that one. It was a division matchup and just didn't look like the Geno Smith that we were accustomed to. There were a lot of questions with him going into this. And today he looked a lot better. A lot better. He got his guys involved. DK Metcalf had 6 receptions, 75 yards. He did leave the game for a little bit with rib injuries, but came back in, really looked solid. Tyler Lockett was the story, though, today. 8 receptions, 59 yards, 2 touchdowns. And, of course, he did that on a week where I don't start him in fantasy. It happens, you know. But Tyler Lockett, he's a very nice receiver. Had a great year last year. So it was nice to see him doing well. And then Kenneth Walker, the Michigan State graduate, had 17 carries, 43 yards, 2 touchdowns. The Lions actually did a good job stopping the run. Even Charbonnet didn't really get going with 4 carries, 16 yards. They actually did solid stopping the run there. But looking at the game, I watched a lot of the highlights and kind of tried to dive in on some of the key points that happened in the game. And really looking at it, it was third downs for the Seahawks that I was most impressed with. It seemed like every time they needed to get a third down, they were able to do it, and they were flat out incredible with it. Third down efficiency, they were only 5 for 11, so it doesn't seem like it stood out completely. But whenever they needed it, they got it. That overtime drive, they had 3 third down conversions out of the 5. So just like that, it shows you just how important it is to have these great third down players. And Geno was able to make these great plays. He had the touchdown to Lockett at the end to get the touchdown. Looking at it from the Detroit side, I did notice there were some defensive injuries and offensive injuries that happened during the game. David Montgomery went out on offense. Amon-Ra went out on offense for a little bit. There were some injuries on that side. Again, you can't blame those injuries, though. There was a lot of moments where Detroit, I'm not a big fan of the fourth downs and how often we go for it. There was a 4th and 2 in the third quarter where we missed it while we're up 21-14, and I'm like, ooh, this is a turning point right here because the Seahawks went down, were able to score, and it kind of changed the game looking at it that way. Like they're really impressive, and it was kind of crazy. Like the Seahawks hit a field goal, and then the Seahawks were able to just get going in that fourth quarter and really roll on us. So, again, with these fourth down calls with Dan Campbell, I'm just not positive with him every time. A lot of people are like, oh, go with the analytics. It's 4th and 2. You're in like no man's land. It's all right. But some of these quarterbacks in the NFL are just so talented. And no offense to our defense, but we weren't stopping anybody today. We kind of struggled on that end. It didn't look like the Lions defense that we showed up with in Kansas City, and we'll talk about Kansas City later and their problems on offense. But this Seattle offense is a very good offense. They just didn't look good week 1 against the Rams, which happens to teams. Sometimes teams just don't wake up for week 1. It's the truth. And Seattle today, they woke up, they were ready to play, and got the job done. Looking at it from a Detroit side, Josh Reynolds had a great game. He had 5 receptions, 66 yards, 2 touchdowns. Big game for him. And looking at it, David Montgomery, he was a big loss. Big loss. He had a fumble early, but overall he had 16 carries, 67 yards, and a touchdown. And he looked great in this game. He was unbelievable. And looking at it from the Goff perspective, Goff was really good in the first half. I mean, he started out the game like 11 for 12, 2 touchdowns, 140 yards passing. He looked unbelievable. And then he threw that really bad pick attempting to give it to Jahmyr Gibbs. And that was a little bit of a struggle there. like it was just way behind him and led to the pick six. That's a tough look if you're Jared Goff. So I mean, looking at it that way, it's like I think Jared Goff had a solid game overall. Like the stat line's more. It looks better than he actually played, I think, in my opinion. But like if you're a Lions fan, it just needs to be that interception needs to be 0. And I get it, like it's his first interception in a long time. But the thing is, it's just we have to take care of the ball because Montgomery also fumbled. And like looking at it through the highlights, like the Lions made more mistakes than Seattle. Seattle, every time they needed a third down, they were able to come through. Then there's the Lions missing 2 fourth downs and having 2 turnovers. It's just tough. It's tough. And I get it. You can argue, oh, the overtime rules stink. That's just the overtime rules in the regular season. And again, like this is a big game. It's a big loss because last year this loss is the reason we didn't make the playoffs. It's just the truth. Seattle beat us at home while the Lions were at home last year. And it's the reason why they didn't make the playoffs. But looking at this game, it's not a bad loss at all. I think Seattle's going to end up being a tough team in that NFC West, and they're really going to take teams and make it difficult for them. Detroit did not play bad in this game. Their offense looked very good. There is some defense that they definitely need to figure out. And looking at it from Seattle's side, congrats. You guys look good again. I'm sure you guys were a little nervous after the Rams game. It's just the truth. But Geno looked a lot better. He was proving the doubters wrong. He was able to get Noah Fant involved a little bit. The offense just was flowing a little bit. I do think there's some defensive work that could happen. Again, the Lions' offense is a pretty good offense, but 2 weeks in a row where you're going against like a Stafford-led Rams offense that actually looks like a pretty good offense too. But also the Lions and getting those 30 points put up on you back-to-back games. It's going to be difficult to be able to win consistently when you're giving up 30 a game. It's just the truth in the NFL. So I do think there's some defensive work that Seattle can do. Overall, I think both these teams are playoff teams. I had them both in my playoffs this year. I'm very excited to see where each of them will land, and this was a very good game. Very exciting game. All right, I want to talk about Thursday night, kind of really NFC focused here, and that was the Eagles and the Vikings. And this game was interesting. I was able to watch more the first half than the second half in this one, but I want to talk about Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts was very average in this game. He was 18 for 23 from the field, 193 yards, a passing touchdown, interception, and like, he was good running the ball, 2 rushing touchdowns, 35 yards. It saves his fantasy stat line. But the thing that was weird with the Eagles is, like, they won this game 34-28, but, like, it was just such a weird way to do it because they just totally ran down the Vikings' throats. Like, the Vikings just did not have the physicality to handle what the Eagles were throwing at them. It was run after run after run after run. I mean, DeAndre Swift had 28 carries, 175 yards, and a touchdown. Like, he was unbelievable. It was insane to watch. And then Boston Scott adds 5 carries, 40 yards. And Jalen Hurts adds 35 yards rushing. Just the rushing numbers were unbelievable in this game. The Eagles ran all over them. And then Devontae Smith was able to get some long catches. He had 4 receptions, 131 yards, and a touchdown. And there was some weird moments with A.J. Brown where it was like he was disappointed he wasn't getting the ball that much. I mean, it's the first time I've seen the Eagles where like there were some questions on them, and that's why I was just so interested in this game. The Eagles' defense was great in this game. They were able to confuse and do some things that really bothered the Vikings at the line of scrimmage. The Vikings could not develop the run game. Alexander Mattison was absolutely horrible in this game. Just did not look good. But the Vikings, like, I've always loved how Kevin O'Connell runs these great plays, and he's able to get his receivers really going. Like Justin Jefferson, he's the best receiver in the football, like, right now, and it's clear. But the fact that he has Kevin O'Connell to give him some plays to run is just insane. Like, it makes it so much easier for him to get open. He had 11 receptions, 159 yards in this game. He's unbelievable. TJ Hawkinson was really good in this game, just finding open spots. He had 7 receptions, 66 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Kirk Cousins is a lot better this year. He's not going to get enough credit for what he does for this team. Their offensive line, they lost a lot of the line. It got actually a couple of them got injured in this game, and he was still able to go 31 for 44, 364, 4 touchdowns, 0 picks against one of the best defenses in football. This D-line is unbelievable. Jalen Carter had a great game. They're tough. They're flat out tough, this D-line, and some of the corners that they have. So I was very impressed with the Vikings offense in this game. Again, like, the Eagles are just tough because they can just run it down your throat, and that can really make it difficult for an offense to bounce back from their defense just getting absolutely physically pummeled, especially against the Eagles, who have one of the best offenses in football along with one of the best defenses in football. So looking at these two teams in the future, I still like the Eagles. I'm very high on them, but there has been some questions, and I'm not sure if they're going to be as dominant as they were last year. I'm starting to like some other, there's another NFC East team that I really like that have been playing really well, and then looking at also the NFC, like the 49ers, they're really good as well. So, I mean, that game was very interesting, and I was very excited for that one. Vikings, again, you're starting out 0-2. You got a tough schedule, so it's a rough start, but I do think there's some hope because I love how O'Connell runs that system. Their defense, they just got to figure it out. I like Brian Flores. I think he can figure it out. But, I mean, as a Lions fan, I'm very happy for it. But I like a lot of what the Minnesota Vikings are doing, and I don't think they're going away anytime soon. Okay, so let's move into, I want to talk about Chiefs-Jags a little bit. So, just a tad in this one. This game wasn't like that great to watch. The Chiefs ended up winning this game 17-9, so it was a very weird game. And the only thing I really wanted to talk about is this is going to be a very different Chiefs team than we've seen pretty much ever. And that's because this team is going to be way more defensive focused than they were like ever. I think this defense is going to be a top 5 unit in the NFL. They're really, really good, and they showed it today. Like, allowing 9 points to the Jaguars is so impressive. Trevor Lawrence really struggled in this one. 22 for 41 from the field, 216 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 picks. That's a rough stat line, very rough stat line. And he was able to get Christian Kirk involved, 11 receptions, 110 yards. But it's like, this isn't a good game by any standards. It's just not. And the Chiefs were able to just absolutely lock them down and play a great game. Adding Chris Jones back is unbelievable. He was such a defensive force for them, able to make great play after great play. And that Chiefs defense is so tough. And I mean, I talked about it a lot, talking about Lions-Chiefs, that the Chiefs had a great defensive game plan for the Lions, only forcing them to pretty much 14 points offensively, and then not allowing a touchdown to the Jaguars. I'm pretty sure it was 3 field goals that the Jaguars got their 9 points off of. Yes, it's 3 field goals by McManus. So just unbelievable defense put on display by the Chiefs, and this is going to be just a very different team. This Chiefs offense does not have the weapons that we're accustomed to seeing Patrick Mahomes have. Mahomes is going to have a solid year, but he's not going to have an MVP caliber year. This game, he was 29 for 41, 305, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a lot of the pressure's on him. They were able to get Pacheco involved more, which I think is going to be huge this year. He had 12 carries, 70 yards. Very solid stat line. Mahomes was able to add 30 yards rushing. And Sky Moore stepped up a little bit. 3 receptions, 70 yards, a touchdown. Kelsey was back. He had 4 receptions, 26 yards. The Chiefs are fine. They're flat out fine. Again, I talked about it. I thought the Chiefs were missing a lot, and it was just a weird game with the Lions. The Chiefs are going to be very much fine. And if I'm looking at the Jaguars, I'm not too worried either. I think this Chiefs defense is really for real, and they just got the better of you today. Your defense stepped up. You made it very difficult for Patrick Mahomes to score points, and a lot of people can't say that. And again, I just talked about it. Mahomes doesn't have much help and stuff, and that kind of looks like a great stat line. But if you're able to pick off Mahomes, that's impressive. You're giving your offense chances to do something. And against this Chiefs defense, it's very difficult to do stuff. So, I mean, looking at it that way, I think these two teams are very, very good teams. And again, just like Seahawks Lions, I think they're both going to be in the playoffs. I have them actually both winning their divisions. So I was very impressed with these two teams looking at the highlights, and I think these teams are going to be very interesting moving forward. All right, I want to talk about Ravens Bengals. These are kind of the games I'm going like deep dive in, and then I'll go through step by step with the other teams. Ravens Bengals. I got to talk about Lamar a little bit. I've been very low on Lamar in this podcast. I have. I mean, I don't love him. I don't love the guy. He didn't look good week 1, but this week he looked so much better. He was very poised in the pocket. He was making great throws, and he was running all over the place. The Ravens developed a physical tone to this game, and Lamar was making plays on third down. Lamar ended up the game with 24 for 33, 237, two pass touchdowns, and then he was 12 carries, 54 yards. This is a Lamar Jackson performance. This is what we need to see from Lamar Jackson all the time. And, the reason why I harp on him so much is I don't see it all the time. But today he showed it. And I'm going to give him credit on this podcast when he shows it, because he deserves it. He deserves credit when he gets the chance. And he showed it in a very difficult matchup at Cincinnati. That's a big win. Big division win. So starting out 2-0 if you're Baltimore, this is an absolutely huge win. Again, I couldn't say much because you played Houston last week, and again, Houston's not going to be very good. I still believe in Cincinnati, but this is a very impressive win to me. Lamar played a great game. Again, you don't have much running back help either. J.K. Dobbins out for the season, but he was able to make Nelson Aguilar look good, which a lot of people don't like Nelson Aguilar. So it's kind of interesting that he was able to make him look good. Mark Andrews had a solid game in this one. Also, Zay Flowers looked pretty good. Like, this was one of the better games I've seen Lamar play in a while, and it's the truth. Again, he didn't play much last year, but looking at this game, this is what you want to see from Lamar. So I was very impressed with him today. Looking at it from the Bengals side, Burrow struggled again, and 2 games in a row, that makes you a little more nervous. It's the truth. He was 27 for 41, 222 passing, two pass touchdowns, 1 interception. I think teams are really covering Jamar Chase a lot better, which is making it difficult for Burrow to go through his progressions and go through his reads. But I'm going to say it. Like, I'm a little nervous. He doesn't look good. I was very high on him going into the year, and he really struggled in this game. He threw a pick that was horrible in the red zone. It was a horrible interception. It was just the wrong read. And looking at the score in this game, Baltimore won this game 27-24. They had a punt return touchdown too. So Burrow's only responsible for 17 of these points, which that's just not great. This isn't the offense that we've seen. And he was able to get T. Higgins involved a lot, who had a big game for fantasy owners. He had 8 receptions, 89 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was great in this game. But I'm looking at this in the future, and I'm pretty nervous if I'm a Bengals fan. It's just not looking great. You lost 2 division games to start the year. You lost at Cleveland and a big home game against Baltimore, and you lost that too. Your division is looking really good this year, and I mean, this is just tough. I'm looking at their schedule coming up. They got a home game against the Rams. This is actually going to be a night game. Let me see. It looks like it'll be the Monday Night Football game next week. So, again, the Rams are looking better. They're getting people involved. We'll talk about the Rams a little later. You got to start winning these games. They're going to have a little bit of ease coming up. I mean, at Tennessee, again, that can be a very tough game. But you got the Cardinals coming up. But the AFC North has it tough because they play the NFC West on the other side. So it's like, it's a tough schedule. It's tough to pick these games. It really is. So if I'm Cincinnati, very tough 0-2 start. It's the second straight year that they've had an 0-2 start. And again, they were able to put it together and figure it out later. I'm still a little skeptical. I'm very skeptical. It's not the same Cincinnati that we're used to, and something's got to change drastically before next week. It's just the truth. They're going to really have to figure something out for that home game against the LA Rams. All right, Tennessee and the Chargers. This one, very interesting, and it's another team you got to call out, and that's the Chargers. Tennessee able to win this game 27-24 in overtime. Tannehill looked so much better in this game. Again, we were ripping on him last week because he threw 3 interceptions, and it was just a rough game. He kind of cost them the game. Today, he was on. He was there. 20 for 24, 246, pass touchdown. He looked like the old Ryan Tannehill, the guy that gets a great QBR and does his job. He had a big play to Traylon Burks throughout this game. He didn't overfeed D-Hop. He was getting it to all of his receivers. Derrick Henry had an okay game, 25 carries, 79 yards. With Derrick Henry, you just got to feed him, you know. If he doesn't get the 4 yards a carry, it's all right. He's going to get you yards. It's just the truth. That's how he does it. He had a touchdown in this game. Spears actually helped in the run game. 8 carries, 49 yards. Looking at it from the Chargers' perspective, it's just so weird because this offense looked great. Like, Herbert played a good game with 305, 2 pass touchdowns. But the thing I wrote down is, like, the Chargers just can't finish drives. There's so many times where they're just stopped in the red zone and they're forced to kick a field goal. And it's like, you got to finish these drives. So Herbert on third down, he's just not looking great. You know, I mean, that's just tough. They're 2 of 14 on third down. 2 of 14. There's no way you can win games when you're 2 of 14 on third down. That's the one hole in this offense because you went down the field and you outgained them in almost everything. Total yards is pretty close here, but that's just because the run numbers for Tennessee is ridiculous. Again, Austin Eckler didn't play in this game, which doesn't help in the run game, but like, you had so many ways to use your run game last time, and I was very impressed with it in week 1. Today, it just wasn't like that. It just wasn't. And, you know, it's a really tough loss, a tough pill to swallow, and you're 0-2. You're 0-2 if you're LA. Let's look at their schedule coming up. They're going to be playing at Minnesota next week, so it's 2 teams that are dying to prove each other, really. I mean, they're both dying to prove each other, and it'll definitely be a very interesting game. Very interesting game. They got Minnesota, then they got the Raiders, and then they got a bye week. So if they can get these 2 wins into the bye week, and then they play Dallas and Kansas City, which 2 tough games in a row, that would really help their confidence moving into that, to get those 2 wins and be like, okay, we're here. We can get into that AFC West spot. Because I was pretty high on the Chargers. I thought they'd take a step up, but their defense hasn't looked good. Staley's really struggled with it. The quarterbacks have been just destroying him all over the place. And I mean, with the Chargers, again, it's those third downs. They got to get those third downs. 2 of 13 on third down you can't have. So, you know, tough loss here for the Chargers. All right, let's jump around a little bit. So, some of the games, the Bucs ended up beating the Bears. I mean, again, I talked about it a lot. The Bucs kind of shocked me. Their defense has looked a lot better, and Baker's playing well, dude. 26 for 34, 317 yards and a touchdown. Like, fantastic there. And White was really good in this game. He had a big fantasy day, along with Mike Evans, who had 6 receptions, 171 yards. Mike Evans, like, proven to be a guy. And you know, this is a big win for the Bucs. And again, the NFC South, like, a lot of teams, that division doesn't have a great schedule. They're like the NFC East of last year. So I would look out for the Bucs, and maybe they could win some games and be dangerous in that spot. Moving on to another NFC South team, the Falcons played Green Bay today, and it was really an unbelievable game. 24-25 was the final here. I want to talk about one thing. Desmond Ridder is not a good quarterback. Like, I kept looking at this game. I mean, I was watching Red Zone on the golf course, and like it seemed like every time I turned on the Falcons game, Ridder was throwing a horrible pass on third down. It's just the truth. He's so lucky that they have such a great run game that it's ridiculous. Bijan was great in this game, 19 carries, 124 yards. Tyler Algier was great, 16 carries, 48 yards. You know, like, I think Arthur Smith is a fantastic coach and puts people in great positions. I just don't think Ritter's like a good enough quarterback to make the Falcons a dangerous team in the playoffs. It's just the truth. And then with Green Bay, the loss of Aaron Jones was killer in this game. They couldn't get A.J. Dillon going. They gave him 15 carries. He only got 55 yards. He just couldn't get going. And it's a lot of pressure to put on Jordan Love. Again, Jordan Love's still very new at this, and I actually thought he played okay. 14 of 25, only 151 yards. 3 passing touchdowns. The Falcons kind of took control and really used their run game to, kind of control the game. So it was hard for Love to get going. I'm not worried if I'm Green Bay. I'm not. I think you're playing very well this year, and you're going to be a very tough team. If I'm the Lions, that's the team I'm looking at in the NFC North right now. I'm still not counting out the Vikings, but I'm counting out the Bears. I think the Bears are done. I think Green Bay is a tough team. And this is a very impressive win for Atlanta. It just keeps them going, keeps them locked in. Atlanta and the Bucks, they're two top tier in the NFC South. I mean, we'll see New Orleans play Carolina on Monday night. But I think the Falcons and the Bucks both looking solid after 2 weeks. Impressive stuff over there. So Colts Texans. I might be wrong on Anthony Richardson. He looked pretty good. He started out with 2 rushing touchdowns and then sadly got a concussion. So he's been dealing with some injury stuff, and I really expected him to be struggling with the reads, but he's looking a lot better. Gardner Minshew able to get the win here. Not much to say on the Texans. C.J. Stroud was able to move the ball, and he didn't turn the ball over. He had 384 yards passing and was really doing some good stuff. I was high on Stroud. I liked him. They couldn't really get the run game going, but I don't think the Colts defense is very good, so I'm not going to overreact to C.J. Stroud. Gardner Minshew able to get the win, though. Shout out Minshew. I love me some Gardner Minshew. All right, some of the 4 o'clock games. I'm going to try to get through these faster. San Francisco beats LA Rams 30-23. San Francisco, again, I talked about it. I think they're the best team in the NFC right now, and they looked pretty solid in this game. Brock Purdy, he had some throws where it was like, ooh, maybe this is why people were low on him going into this year. I mean, 206, no pass touchdowns, no interception. It just wasn't a great game, but McCaffrey and Debo were really the story in this game. Debo was able to get some rush yards. McCaffrey had 116 yards rushing. They were tough. They were really, really tough, It was very impressive. Looking at the Niners, they were flat out incredible. But, the Rams, they kept it close. Stafford threw the ball 55 times in this game, which is unbelievable to me. He didn't end up with the greatest game. 307, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. That 49ers defense makes it so tough on you. It's just the truth. It's so tough. But the only way the Rams were really moving the ball was through the air. Puka Nacua was sensational. 15 receptions, 147 yards. He broke the record for most catches in a 2-game span for your first 2 games in your career. He has 25 catches through his first 2 games. Flat out sensational. He had an unbelievable game. Shout out to him. All right, Giants Cardinals. The Giants saved me this week. My survivor pool with my family, I picked the Giants against the Cardinals, and I already lost last week because I picked the Vikings the week before. So now I picked the Giants, and the Giants made an unbelievable comeback with 24 unanswered points and beat the Cardinals 31-28. Daniel Jones just looked so impressive in the second half. He was going all over the place. He's got Saquon involved a lot. Saquon had a very solid second half, and Jalen Hyatt had some really good receptions deep, which was very impressive. Looking at it, it was just a fun game to watch. Daniel Jones had complete control in the second half and was just all over the place. And the Cardinals, I'm sorry, but they're not very good. It's just the truth. That's why I picked against them in this one. I was all in on the Giants. And the Giants looked so bad in the first half, and they turned it around. They made it a lot better to root for them, and it was a lot more fun in that game. I missed 1 o'clock game, which was Bills Vegas, and I just want to talk about it a little bit. Bills looked a lot better. They looked a lot better. Josh Allen, 31 for 37, 274 yards, 3 pass touchdowns. I did see one play where he was still trying to be Josh Allen and still run through people and go all over them, but he looked a lot better. I'm going to give him credit for this week. And this is the first time they got a run game going. James Cook, 17 carries, 123 yards. That's going to help Josh Allen. I just think he needs people to take some pressure off of him, and so he doesn't have to put on that Superman cape and be the guy. So James Cook being able to do that, it's absolutely huge for him. And I think it was a load off playing Vegas. I don't think Vegas is that great. Devontae Adams left the game in this one injured, and Jacoby Myers didn't play. He was already injured. So, I don't think Vegas is that good, but a very good win nonetheless for Buffalo. It just gets them back in the right direction. Two more games. Dallas absolutely whooped the New York Jets. It was not really a game. CeeDee Lamb was unbelievable in this game, and Dak looked a lot better, but this Cowboys defense they're something else. I was very high on the Jets defense throughout the year, but this Cowboys defense is the best defense in football, not the Jets defense. I mean, Micah Parsons is just so good at football. Unbelievable. I was very impressed with the Cowboys in this game, and they're going to be a handful. I think I talked about it that there's another team in the NFC East that I think is better than the Eagles, and I do think it's the Cowboys. Right now, I'd rank it 49ers, Cowboys, and then Eagles. The Cowboys just look so tough right now, and I would not want to see them if I'm anybody in the NFC. Commanders, Broncos. I think it's time to move on from Russell Wilson. He's not very good at football. Yes, you can say, oh, he had that Hail Mary at the end of the game. It was unbelievable. They missed the 2 points. So it doesn't matter. They lost the game. The Commanders beat them. The Commanders aren't that good. They're just not. Sam Howell looked like he had a solid game, 299, 2 touchdowns. But the fact of the matter is there's something going on in Denver that we're just not clear on, and it's tough. Starting 0-2, it's just weird. You get out to these leads at the start and you look really good, and then you just fall apart. 2 winnable games for Denver that they just fell apart in. There's just no way you can trust this team. It's just the truth. There's no way you can trust this team.